There's a reason you're here right now. You didn't stumble across this by accident. You felt it, haven't you? That pull, that nagging sense that something isn't right in the world, like invisible strings are being pulled behind every action, every event, every move you make. It's not paranoia. It's not imagination. It's real. And if you're listening, you're one of the few who's ready to finally see it for what it is. What I'm about to share with you will shift your understanding of reality itself. You'll never look at the world the same way again. But I'll warn you, once you know this, you can't unknow it. This is the knowledge that will free you from their control forever. Let's start with the basics. Who are they? No, I'm not talking about a specific group, a government, a corporation, or some shadowy cabal. They are something much bigger, much older, and much more insidious. They are the collective systems of control that have been put in place to keep you small, quiet, and blind to your own power. It's not about one villain or one conspiracy. It's about a web of programming so deeply embedded in your mind that you don't even realize it's there. It's in the education system that taught you to conform instead of think. It's in the media that feeds you stories designed to shape your perception. It's in the culture that tells you who you can be, what you can have, and how you should live. And worst of all, it's in the beliefs you've been conditioned to hold about yourself. Here's the first truth you need to understand: the greatest prison isn't made of walls or bars. It's made of ideas. It's the belief that you're powerless, that you have no control, that life happens to you instead of through you. This is the foundation of their control. As long as you believe you're small, as long as you accept the narrative that you're just one insignificant piece in a massive, uncaring machine, you'll never question the system. You'll never challenge the rules. You'll follow the path they've laid out for you: work, consume, obey, repeat, without ever realizing that you're playing a game you didn't choose.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lessons.
But here's the thing: the game only works if you agree to play by their rules. And the moment you wake up to the fact that you're the one holding the controller, everything changes. You see, the truth is, reality isn't something that happens to you. It's something you create. Every thought you think, every belief you hold, every emotion you feel, they're like commands being sent out into the universe, shaping the world around you. And this is where their control begins to crumble. Because the moment you realize how powerful you truly are, you become uncontrollable. Let me ask you something. Why do you think the world is so obsessed with keeping you distracted? Why are you constantly bombarded with notifications, advertisements, and endless streams of content? Why is the system designed to keep you working just hard enough to survive, but never enough to thrive? It's because when your mind is cluttered, when your energy is drained, you lose touch with your power. You stop questioning. You stop creating. You become a passive participant in your own life. And that's exactly what they want. But here's the good news: you don't have to play their game. You don't have to follow their rules. You can break free, but only if you're willing to take back control of your own mind. This starts with one simple but profound realization: you are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not the stories you've been told about who you are. You are the awareness behind them. And once you tap into that awareness, you can start rewriting the program that's been running your life. Let's get practical. The first step to breaking free is to become aware of the ways you've been programmed. Start paying attention to the beliefs you hold about yourself, about the world, about what's possible. Where did those beliefs come from? Who taught you to think that way? And more importantly, are those beliefs even true? For example, how many times have you told yourself, "I'm not good enough," or "I'll never succeed"? Do you think you were born with those thoughts? Of course not. They were planted there by your environment, by society, by the people around you. But here's the thing, just because a thought exists doesn't mean it's true. And once you start questioning those beliefs, you take away their power. The second step is to reclaim your focus. Remember, their control thrives on distraction. The more scattered your attention, the easier you are to manipulate. So start training your mind to focus on what truly matters. This might mean turning off the news, cutting back on social media, or even spending time in silence. It's not about escaping the world, it's about creating space for your own thoughts, your own intuition, your own vision. Because here's the secret: when you silence the noise, your true self starts to emerge. And that self is unstoppable. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Once you've started to clear out the programming and reclaim your focus, you can begin to tap into the deeper layers of reality. You see, they don't just control you through external systems, they also manipulate the very fabric of the collective consciousness. Every time you buy into fear, every time you let anger or division consume you, you're feeding the system. You're strengthening the very forces that keep you trapped. But when you choose love, when you choose unity, when you choose to rise above the chaos, you're not just freeing yourself, you're disrupting the entire system. This brings us to the most important question: what kind of world do you want to create? Not just for yourself, but for all of us. Because the truth is, we're all connected. Every thought you think, every action you take, ripples out into the collective field. And when enough of us wake up, when enough of us take back control, the entire system begins to shift. This isn't about fighting them, it's not about tearing down the old, it's about building something new, something better, something rooted in truth, freedom, and love. You have more power than you've been led to believe. You don't need permission. You don't need approval. You don't need to wait for someone to save you. You are the creator of your own reality. And the moment you fully embrace that truth, their control crumbles. Forever. Think about the one thing that has stopped you the most in life. It's not the system. It's not other people. It's not even the circumstances you were born into. It's fear. Fear is the single most effective tool of control ever created. It doesn't need to lock you in a physical prison because it locks you in a mental one. Fear convinces you to stay small, to stay quiet, to stay in line. But here's what they don't want you to figure out: fear is an illusion. It only has power if you give it power. Let's break it down. Fear isn't something that exists outside of you. It's not a tangible force. It's a projection of your mind, a response to something that hasn't even happened yet. Think of all the times fear has stopped you. Maybe it was fear of rejection, fear of failure, or fear of what others might think. Did the thing you were afraid of actually happen? And even if it did, was it as bad as you imagined? Fear thrives on the unknown. It's the anticipation of pain, not the pain itself, that keeps you stuck. And most of the time, that pain never comes. But here's the part that should really wake you up: fear isn't just a personal experience. It's a tool that's been weaponized against you. Look at the world around you. Fear is everywhere: in the news, in the stories we're told, in the way we're taught to live. Fear of failure keeps you in jobs you hate. Fear of judgment stops you from speaking your truth. Fear of scarcity keeps you chasing money instead of freedom. And fear of the unknown keeps you clinging to a system that doesn't serve you. It's no accident. Fear is the perfect mechanism for control because it makes you control yourself. They don't need to force you to stay in line if they can make you too afraid to step out of it. Here's the truth that changes everything: fear cannot survive in the presence of action. The moment you move toward what you're afraid of, the illusion begins to break. Fear is like a shadow. It looks enormous when you stand still, but when you walk toward it, it shrinks. That's why they keep you distracted. That's why they keep you comfortable. If you never push against the edges of your comfort zone, you'll never see that the walls aren't real. You'll live your entire life in a cage with the door wide open. So what do? How do you break free from fear once and for all? You start by understanding that fear itself isn't the enemy. Fear is just energy. It's your body's way of preparing you for action. The problem isn't fear, it's your reaction to it. Most people feel fear and freeze. They let it paralyze them. But what if, instead of freezing, you used fear as fuel? What if every time you felt that knot in your stomach, that quickened heartbeat, you saw it as a sign that you were on the edge of something important? Because here's the reality: fear only shows up when you're stepping into something bigger than yourself. It's a signal, not a stop sign. Here's a practical strategy to dismantle fear. Start small. Find one thing you've been avoiding because it scares you. Maybe it's having a difficult conversation, trying something new, or putting yourself out there in a way you haven't before. Don't overthink it, just do it. The goal isn't to be fearless. Fearless is a myth. The goal is to act even when you feel the fear. And every time you do, you'll notice something incredible. Fear loses its grip on you. It becomes smaller, weaker, less convincing. And as you build that muscle, you'll start to notice a shift in every area of your life. But let's take this deeper. Fear isn't just personal, it's collective. The world is saturated with fear because that's how the system stays intact. When people are afraid, they stop questioning. They stop imagining. They stop connecting with each other. Fear divides us. It makes us see each other as threats instead of allies. It keeps us focused on survival instead of creation. And the more we buy into it, the more we feed the system. This is why breaking free from fear isn't just about you, it's about all of us. When you let go of fear, you stop feeding the cycle. You become part of the solution. Think about this for a second. How different would your life be if fear didn't control you? How many times have you stopped yourself from doing something you knew in your heart was right because fear whispered in your ear? What could you achieve if that voice went silent? Because it can. Not by fighting it, but by recognizing it for what it is: just a voice. And the moment you stop giving it power, it loses its control over you. Here's something most people don't realize: fear and freedom can't exist in the same space. Every time you choose fear, you give away a piece of your freedom. But the opposite is also true. Every time you choose freedom, you take power away from fear. This is why the system works so hard to keep you afraid. They know that as long as you're afraid, you'll never realize how powerful you are. But once you do, everything changes. When you stop letting fear dictate your choices, you start living on your own terms. You become unstoppable. And that's what they're truly afraid of. Let's take this further. By now you've started to see through the facade, noticing how much of what you believed to be true was handed to you, not chosen by you. The next step is the most challenging but also the most liberating, fully claiming your power. The first thing to realize is that power isn't something external. It's not about titles, wealth, or influence. Real power comes from knowing who you are and living in alignment with that truth, no matter what. That kind of power can't be taken from you, and it doesn't need anyone's permission to exist. So why do so few people claim it? Because it comes with responsibility. It means you can no longer blame anyone else for your life. It means you can no longer hide behind excuses or wait for someone else to save you. That's where many people get stuck. It's easier to stay small, to play the victim, to say, "This is just how life is." But deep down, they know the truth. The cage they're in is unlocked. They just haven't walked out. Here's what it takes to step out: courage. Not the kind of courage you see in movies where heroes charge into battle. This is quieter, but far more powerful. It's the courage to face yourself, to admit where you've been holding back, and to decide that you're done waiting. Let's break it down. Most people live in reaction mode. Something happens, they react. Someone says something, they react. Their entire life is a series of reactions. But when you're constantly reacting, you're not in control. You're being controlled. The alternative is to live intentionally. This means deciding what matters to you and letting everything else fall away. It means knowing what you stand for and refusing to compromise, no matter how much pressure you face. You might wonder, what if I lose people? What if they don't understand? Here's the truth: not everyone will understand. And that's okay. Your path isn't meant for everyone. The ones who matter will stay, and those who leave were never meant to walk with you in the first place. Start small. Look at your daily life and notice where you're giving away your power. Is it seeking approval? Is it in saying yes to things you don't believe in? Is it in staying silent when something needs to be said? Whatever it is, stop. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone. When you live from your truth, your actions will speak louder than words. People might not understand at first, but they will feel the authenticity in what you do. There's another layer to this. Once you claim your power, you become a mirror. Your presence will reflect to others the parts of themselves they've been avoiding. Some will be inspired, others will resist. But none of it is about you. Your only job is to stay true to yourself. Now let's talk about fear. Fear isn't something to be eliminated. It's a signal. When fear shows up, it's often pointing you towards something important. Instead of running from it, ask, what's on the other side of this? 9 times out of 10, the thing you fear the most is the thing you need to face to grow. And when you face it, something incredible happens. The fear doesn't just disappear, it transforms. It becomes fuel. It becomes strength. It becomes the very thing that propels you forward. But growth isn't just about facing fear. It's also about letting go. Letting go of the stories you've been telling yourself about who you are and what's possible. Letting go of the need to control everything. Letting go of the belief that you have to do it all alone. Here's a thought: what if you trusted yourself completely? What if you stopped second-guessing every decision, doubting every step, and just trusted that you already have everything you need? Because you do. The truth is, you've always been capable. The systems that try to control you don't want you to see that, because the moment you do, their grip weakens. They rely on your self-doubt. They rely on your hesitation. But once you stop doubting, Once you step fully into who you are, they lose their power. This isn't just about freeing yourself, it's about what happens when you do. Because when one person breaks free, it creates a ripple effect. Your courage inspires others. Your authenticity gives them permission to be themselves. And before long, the entire game starts to change. Now, let's be real. This path isn't easy. You'll face resistance both from within and from the world around you. There will be moments when you'll want to quit, when it feels like the old patterns are pulling you back. In those moments, remember this: every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. Every time you choose truth over fear, you're winning. Every time you refuse to settle for less than what you deserve, you're breaking the cycle. This is how change happens, not in one big, dramatic moment, but in the small, consistent choices you make every day. So here's the final question: what are you waiting for? This isn't about tomorrow, next year, or some distant future. The only moment you have is now. You don't need more time. You don't need more answers. You don't need anyone's permission. The truth is, you already know what to do. You've always known. The only thing left is to begin.